Welcome to Audio Star Productions discussion group. And today we're going to be introducing Mr. Anthony Clark, a writer, producer of Audio Star Productions. We're going to get into a little bit of his biography right now. So, welcome, Tony. How are you doing today?
Hey, Weston. Thanks for having me. Doing great. Really excited to be a part of Audio Star Productions. Yes, Anthony Clark is my given name, but thank you. Tony is perfectly fine. And when you're out there looking up my actual music, you will find me under Renaissance Music, which I'm slowly kind of transitioning back to my name. And getting away from the whole Renaissance moniker. But a little bit about me. I am an older gentleman who has been playing music since I was about 10, which I was reading a little bit about you. I think we started playing music about the same time.
Right.
I was given my first guitar at about 10 years old, and started taking lessons and everything. And that carried on. Through junior high school, I started doing vocal work in choirs. High school, did even more vocal work, started learning classical guitar techniques and things like that. And then off to college, I went to, which was then called North Texas State University, which was a pretty highly regarded jazz school. Studied there, continued learning some composition and more classical guitar, and then went to Austin, Texas, to the University of Texas, and was actually, strange as it was then, they did not have a classical guitar program. They had a piano, harp, didgeridoo, anything you wanted. You could get into their music school, but they did not have classical guitar. So I actually auditioned as an opera vocalist, and made the cut to join their music school.
Well, I didn't know you were quite the singer then.
Yeah, no,
That takes a lot of work to be an opera singer.
It does. My teacher was from the Royal Coventry Garden Opera House in London, and he was a pretty well-known gentleman, and he was vicious. He would have you lay down. He was a little man, and he would have you lay down on your back. He would stand on your stomach, and you would do breathing exercises. And
I've done those before.
Try to lift him up with your diaphragm to strengthen your diaphragm. So that is what I did. A lot of vocal, singing in choirs, performing with orchestras and symphonies and things like that, because there was no classical guitar program at the University of Texas, a major university. They did not have it. So that's where I learned, was deeply steeped into piano, and was one of the few who were able to get into what was then electronic composition. Now this is 1987, so synthesizers were really taking off, and so they were offering a composition class.
1987, right?
Yeah,
I would have been 3 years old.
3 years old. See, I told you, I'm an elderly gentleman.
Hey, you know what? It's all cool.
Yeah, it's all cool. So did that, actually ended up minoring in composition, and what I flipped the side of the glass, and I got my bachelor's in audio engineering.
Mm-hmm.
So I went over to the communication school and learned all about the big, massive consoles, the SSLs and the Neve consoles and things like that, and spent a heck of a lot of time in their recording studios. This show called Austin City Limits. As students, we got to work on Austin City Limits as the guy who got to roll the cables. We never got to touch the console, of course, but we got to roll all the cables up. But that's where I learned the production side, working with college filmmakers, doing locking audio up to film and doing the sound design and locking music to the scenes and things like that. And then I graduated, and me and my buddy who went through all of this together, our big goal was to go to New York City and hit it big in New York City.
Isn't that everyone's dream?
Everyone's dream. So he packed it up and he went to New York City because he graduated like 3 months before me. And lo and behold, I was playing in a band who actually was like in the first South by Southwest, elderly gentleman that I am, the first South by Southwest. And we got out of our school with a demo tape. Yes, I do mean cassette tape. And so I shopped it around to a couple of the studios, expecting nothing of it. And I landed a job at a recording studio that was actually an advertising recording studio that did work with some of the biggest advertising companies around, and had a connection with what was then Sony Columbia Music. So, of course, I started as a coffee getter and a cable roller, as we all did, and would sit in the back corner and read all the manuals and learn about the Tascam 3-inch and all that stuff. Meanwhile, producers from Sony Columbia were in, recording all the hot artists of the time. Sooner or later, I got to sit in the big chair, and that was fun. Sitting in the big chair. So that's how I got started. Just luck, knowing some people. I actually knew the advertising VP for KLBJ Radio in Austin. Hey, there's a plug for KLBJ Radio. Whose boyfriend was the lead singer in the band I was in. You see how all this kind of tumbles.
I see.
That's how I got introduced to the studio that listened to my demo tape and said, yeah, okay, you'll make a great coffee maker.
Hey, was that band that you showed me a while back, the alternative band that you were in for a while?
No clue. It was called Jonas Owens and the Necessary Noise.
No, that wasn't it. You showed me some other music. It was some alternative rock that you did in the past. It kind of almost sounded like it was almost towards that Nirvana sound, but it was kind of.
Don't know. Oh, well, later on, after that, I mean, if we just want to continue the story, I was in another band, and we, I don't know, we did kind of U2 stuff, things like that. Now, this was now mid-90s, so that sound.
Yeah, it was kind of closer to U2.
Yeah, it was,
Is that alternative pop rock sound?
Yeah. That didn't really, take off much. Although it goes full circle because once I got out of the studio world, because it's a pretty crazy world, I went to work in production, in meeting production. So like if you go to a hotel, to one of the big seminars, whatever, and there's lights and cameras and microphones, and Kool and the Gang comes and plays 5 of their hits, things like that. I was the director of that department, in a very large conference hotel. So that was like as professional as I could get and still stay within my degree plan, because I was extremely fortunate, extremely lucky that I actually got to stay inside my teaching plan, what I learned in school. Everyone else, or most everyone else who graduated became computer programmers, whatever, went to work in tech because that was the thing. I actually stayed close to music and close to production. So I did that, but nothing musically. for many, many years. And then that alternative band that you referred to, 2015, 2016, the bass player reaches out to me out of the blue, hadn't talked to him in 100 billion years, and said, "Hey man, let's get back into music." And I said, "Hey man, you're nuts." and little did I know that 3 years later, I'd be 4 albums deep and have a little studio in my house and talking to Weston Simonis and being a part of Audio Star Productions. I'm the Austin branch, I guess. I'm in Austin. You're in Oregon. And just learning the amazing distance that the business has traveled in 30 years.
Oh, it's gone big time, 30 years.
I mean, I was cutting tape with razor blades on aluminum blocks. That's how you edited. There was no such thing as digital editing.
How much easier now? Would you go back?
No, quite honestly, no. I mean, it was a beautiful time to watch, a big, reel this deep and this big around, whizzing as fast as imaginable on a big multi-track player and just stop on a dime and lock, within a tenth of a second of where you needed to be was freaking amazing back then. But
I never really got to do the tape cutting, but I got to see like videos of it, and I got to see the tape and firsthand in classrooms and stuff like that. But they never really did any tape cutting because that tape was expensive.
Yes. Oh yeah. Yeah. One of those reels would be like $500 just for the reel of tape. Yeah. And then digital came, digital. We were one of the first studios that had a DAT machine, digital audio tape, that was shipped to us from Sony.
I remember Cakewalk was around about the early 90s.
Yeah.
Early 90s, it came out somewhere in Windows 95 or 97, I think it was.
Yeah, it was actually
mid-90s.
Yeah. It was the first automation system I ever worked with. We had a Neve 24-track console. Rupert Neve is a famous console maker. And we were one of the first studios, again, pure luck, that I was able to work in the studio. First studios that had Cakewalk, which to this day, now, 30 years later, I use a version of Cakewalk called Sonar, believe it or not.
I think I've used that Sonar when it was like Sonar 4.
Yeah, it's had so many iterations.
What version is it up to now?
It doesn't have a version. Now it's just Sonar. It was owned by Gibson Guitar, the Gibson company, up until about 2017, and then they literally abandoned it. They walked away, said, "Sorry guys, everyone who paid us all this money for Sonar, we're not going to support it anymore. We're bankrupt." They went bankrupt. And then a compassionate, loving person of music who happened to be from an extraordinarily wealthy family from Philippines or Thailand or something like that, bought it.
Oh, nice.
Bought it outright and made it accessible to everyone. This is professional, high-end, because I'm used to it, because I've used it. I used it from, the 90s, some of the best digital audio workstation that you can get your hands on. Now, of course, Pro Tool users will say, no, Pro Tools is the best.
Yeah, I use Pro Tools, but...
Yeah,
But hey,
it's all personal taste.
Preference, man.
Yeah, it's all preference.
I've used Pro Tools, Cubase, Logic, GarageBand.
GarageBand, yeah, the Apple version.
I used Fruity Loops.
Yep.
Reason. There's many different DAWs out there to use. Oh, and I have Studio One, but I never use it. I've never tried it.
Yeah, we're way into the deep, but I heard that's a good one. That's not bad. The Studio One is pretty cool. pretty cool DAW. But, that's an important point. Not that it has anything to do with me, but it does in a way. It doesn't matter the tools that you're using. What matters is your end result. You can use Pro Tools, Sonar, Fruity Loops. It doesn't matter as long as what you start with is good stuff.
What you know how to use. So if you know how to use it and the way you can use it, it's what it is,
Yep, exactly.
I always start with think small to create big.
Yeah, that's very wise. Yeah.
Because I mean, like guitar and distortion, when you're tracking guitars, usually you double them up.
Right.
And distortion can be like one of those things where you've got too much drive, and with one guitar, that drive sounds awesome.
Mm-hmm.
But when you put two guitars on there, and you got one on the left and one on the right to make it sound big, now it sounds all muddy and disgusting sounding. So I find that, cutting back that distortion even to a point where it might be not enough, and then you can add in more distortion later.
Yep.
Reamp it back. Some people were like, oh, I don't like the sound of distortion when it's through the amp. I don't find it the way, but what are you, how are you doing it? How are you creating that distortion to sound, are using an amp simulator to to create that distortion? I mean, there's a big difference between just a distortion like app in your menu versus a reamping distortion. I mean,
yeah, huge difference. I mean, that speaks to that, that leap that audio has taken, production has taken from, the 1990s when we were cutting lead guitars with tape and, hoping to gosh that you had the right angle, because the blocks had certain angles depending on the speed of the tape. If you cut the wrong angle on the wrong speed tape, you just blew Red Hot Chili Peppers guitar lead. And that's a problem. That's a big problem,
And so back to talking about your history.
Yeah. So there's the history, and
now you're writing for Audio Star Productions and a few other libraries.
Yes. So about a year ago, I decided to kind of write more for film, TV, image, sync, and that's where I started learning about Audio Star Productions. Being a music library, Song Trader. Envato, which is called Jungle, I believe, is their brand, and Velvet Green Music, which is a boutique library. So that's how when I came back to music, I came back from a different angle, different viewpoint. When I was younger, I was doing rock, alternative rock, like that. Did a lot of producing of commercial albums and things like that. But then when it was just for me to do, I came with an ambient, chill, groove, relaxed, because I'm an elderly gentleman. And so I had to kind of leave off the edginess, which tended to lend well to image. The music could invoke an emotion, which is important to music libraries, which is why you will see a music library will have a section of drama or a section of tension or a section of mystery, because that's an emotion that they're hoping will sell to a music supervisor. The new Twilight Zone, which is quite good, I might add. They want mystery and tension. So that music supervisor is looking for that kind of music. So that's how I fell into writing music, not only for myself and releasing my own albums, but writing specific music for music libraries under, specific genres of drama or mystery or horror or things like
that. That's good there, because I mean, music has taken a big change in the last 20 years. I mean, if you look at it, it's almost to 2020. It'll be 2020 next year, right? Right. 2019, and the top of music was at like 2003. That was the top. Music was so, yeah, at 2003, music around 2002, 2003, music was so up here on an up climb, right? But what killed it is all the digital stuff, that the digital download and whatnot, and where it began is back in 1998, when Napster first came out. And so we got this climb of music here, and here's 1998, Napster, right? And it comes out, and then here it is, it's still climbing, and then all of a sudden, oh, we're going to do all this free download stuff all over the internet, and we don't have no way of controlling it. Here goes music.
Yeah, the music revenues. Music money paid to artists. Yeah,
music revenues. Okay, but it's like, okay, boom, on its downward climb, here goes all the free stuff.
Yep.
And then it got down to the bottom, and now I'm kind of at this view of like, okay, this is cool that they're trying to make it so that way they can monetize it right and pay a fair wage to the artist still, which still is not that much.
Right. This is the Music Modernization Act.
Yeah, they had that going on. And that's why I feel like the sync music fit for me, because, I mean, I grew up as a producer too, writing music, started real young. And I felt like going forward with this made more sense to me because I live in the middle of nowhere. I don't know if you knew that. I'm in the middle of nowhere.
You live on a little island in the middle of nowhere.
Right, basically. LeGrand, Oregon.
LeGrand, Oregon.
And we're here, the representation at Audio Star Productions in LeGrand. So, I think that, sync is it's got to be, it's a love-hate relationship. You have to love music so much that you would want to write it as a sync artist. And I can see that you love music so much that you would be wanting to be a sync artist and understand that it takes years before you could even become a full-time job as a sync artist writer. Right. But to me, as in looking at it, seems more realistic to be a sync writer and write jingles and stuff like that, versus it is to be this artist that wants to look at me, I'm on Spotify. I mean, that's cool to put your music up there, and I want to do some of that kind of music and put it out there and have it available for the public so that people can hear me and whatnot. But honestly, I don't think that's where I'm going to put all my money in pot, and is into something that's not going to have its opportunities like it would over here in music libraries.
Yeah, it's true. It's almost like an investment strategy. Do you want to, and time is the commodity. Mm-hmm. You want to invest your time into something that has a reasonable and fair return. If you can sync a piece of 1-minute music for $1,500, or do you want to spend time writing an album that goes out on Spotify and iTunes and Google Play and iTunes Play and make 15 cents? Where do you want to spend? Where do you want to spend your energy? Where do you want to invest your time into?
Right.
And it's a little bit of a different type of writing mindset. When you're writing for film or television, it's a little more packaged, I guess. Like for Velvet Green Music, pretty much 2.5 minutes, that's the max that they want time-wise for a piece of music. Whereas when you're writing out, my type of, the type of music I create, my last album, Millennial, had a 10-minute piece on it.
Yeah,
that won't even
40, right? 2440 Millennial.
Yeah, 2440. It had a 10-minute piece. You couldn't play that on your radio station. So
depends on what radio station you're doing. I mean, it could be a college radio station. You play whatever you want, but
yeah, that's true. That's true. But yeah, I was talking to a promoter guy who promotes specifically this genre of music, which falls under New Age. And he was saying, hey, 10-minute piece of music, that's great. It's artistry. We love it. But the radio stations, who actually play this type of music, they still need it to be radio time. If you can make your music in 3.5 minutes, they want to be able to move on to the next artist to keep their audience engaged. That made sense to me. It did. So my last album is radio ready. It's all 3 minutes, 3.5 minutes, still chill, groove, ambient, whatever you want to call it. But I think you realize kind of as we grow up as artists, we kind of blend and meld, and even though we're creating music we want to create, we have to think about who we're creating it for.
Right.
At the end of the day, if I'm just creating music for me and my dog, well, my dog doesn't pay anything, to listen to music. Kind of like your sample, your example of suddenly everything was free. Yeah, I can't even get somebody to spend 99 cents on a track of mine, but they'll go down to Starbucks and spend $4 on a coffee.
Right.
Because the model changed and they could just go get it for free on Spotify.
And that's where I talk to a lot of artists, and they're like, some of them are like, I'm going to do the fan, direct fan marketing stuff. And I go, so how are you going to directly do the marketing if you don't have your music up digitally? Because no one like listens to music on CD or anymore. And
it's true.
So how are you going to present yourself that way? I'd like to see how that pans out. Because I have a box of Moments of Intoxication sitting over there with thousands of copies of that CD.
Yep.
I can't even hand them out for free most.
Because no one's got a CD player. I mean, in my house, well, no, my computer, my big box computer over here, it has a CD player in it. Mm-hmm. But my laptops, no, laptops don't even have CD players in them. Now, what I've been learning is that radio stations still want a CD.
Right.
And what's important, and this might be a great topic, for one of the production videos, is having that spine of the CD printed, because you can print there or not when you're making a CD, because the radio station shelves everything upright. And if they're going, oh yeah, let's go over to their ambient collection, and well, there's no name on this spine, keep going.
Mm-hmm.
So from what besides the collectors, there's still a group of people, and now vinyl is starting to get popular again. People want records. DJs, I think, still want CDs or vinyl because they're mixing, mashing up and stuff like that. But yeah, I feel you. I can't, I don't want to talk about the closet in my studio that has 2 cases of my first CD in it. You're right. You can't even give away,
Right. It's difficult to, sell these days. So might as well just put it up and get those monetization streams as much as you can, and write music for what makes it for you.
Yeah. And and if you want to merchandise, then get outside of the proverbial CD box. Don't merchandise CDs. Make coffee cups, t-shirts. Audio Star Production has t-shirts, has coffee cups.
We do. Hey,
there you go. Look at that.
Baseball cap right here. Look at this.
Baseball caps. You can hop on Audio Star Productions right now and you can own that hat.
You can.
But that's where we as independent artists have to be thinking. Yeah, you might sell a couple of CDs at your live show, but I bet you're going to sell a whole lot more koozies and hats and t-shirts than you're going to sell CDs.
Right. Well, Tony, it was great talking with you today about this, about you.
It was about me.
And BSing a little bit about other stuff.
Yeah.
And any advice that you would like to give our listeners before we end this video?
Yeah, just don't give up. It's if music is a passion of yours, filmmaking, writing, whatever, even when you have to go out there and make rent and pay the bills, keep working at your passion. If it hits, it hits. If it doesn't, at least at the end of your days, you're not going, man, I wish I had done a CD. Man, I wish I had written a book. With the beauty about today's digital world is you can write that book. You can write it, finish it, put it on Amazon, and they will publish your book. And if somebody buys it, I think they'll even print a hard copy and send it out. If somebody wants a hard copy of the book. So, it's still, even more so than in the 80s and 90s, a really cool time to be creative, because we can do it with simplicity because of the tools that are available to us today. We don't have to book 8 hours at $100 an hour in a recording studio to make our craft.
No, you don't.
We can do it right here in our spare bedroom with a Japanese screen behind us.
We both got one.
Shazam! And our CDs in the background, and our guitar.
Yeah. I got my CDs on physical distribution online from a distribution company called CD Baby, which puts it on Amazon and all that kind of stuff too. But I honestly have not sold one yet.
Yeah, it's a tough game. I was just looking at my distribution, and as much as we dislike Spotify's paid me more money than anyone else.
No, and they're the ones that are arguing about the copyright thing.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, iTunes, I don't know, from what I can tell, maybe 2 albums have sold through iTunes, although iTunes has stopped selling. Now they have gone to a
stream
only.
So
iTunes, Walmart has stopped selling CDs.
There was a new distribution company that because I have an album with different distribution companies, just check out pricing and stuff. I got to get back on there and look it up. But there was this one that pays like a big amount of money per spin, and I think they're prescription only music app. Let me look into that, and we'll share that with people and get it going out, because I think that if we can get moving with that kind of stuff, that'd be kind of cool. But to finish this video off and not get back into monetization, we need to hit this. And thanks for the interview there, Tony. And,
thank you, Weston. It was a good time.
We'll be posting this out on the web for everyone.
All right. Thanks a lot, brother.
All right. Thanks, Tony.
Peace.